Yes, welcome to Caring in this Crisis. We are here, me, Gunilla Hamne, I'm a consultant of stress and trauma, my colleague Ulf, and we are both in Sweden, Ulf Sandström, and our dear colleague, Dr. Siyana Mahroof in UK. So we would like to take some things that we have seen are effects also in this crisis of Corona, that it's easy that frustration grows into conflict and anger, whether you're locked down at home or things happen at the workplace or other interpersonal relations. So I'd like to give it to Ulf. You had some thoughts about this.
Yeah, we were talking about this, and you, when you're listening to this, we're gonna go through practical examples of what you actually can do. We just saw that the UK largest domestic abuse charity, Refuge, reported a 700% increase in calls to its helpline in a single day. So we're suspecting there's a lot of anger going around, anger and frustration, and anger is an emotion. And then we were saying, oh my God, emotions. What if we could approach emotional unease or dis-ease in the same way that we approach a physical dis-ease? So we have, thanks to the universe, we have a doctor with us, and this is Dr. Siyana. Now, if you were to approach anger in the same way you were to approach somebody coming in saying they have a bellyache or high cholesterol levels, how would you go about it?
Well, thanks, guys. I mean, yeah, I think our theme today is this issue of conflicts, right? And yes, it's interesting to bring it into a disease type model. And I think the first thing that we do in a typical medical consultation is we ask people, obviously they bring the problem, and then we try to dissect the root cause of this. So we ask them a history, and this history might include when all this occurs, as well as any risk factors, such as if they have family history, background, other kind of background issues, perhaps they're war victims, so there's a lot of medical as well as social things. Of course, my example is always something like a high cholesterol, which is such a nice physical.
Yeah, can you take that example? Because I like that. You were saying, somebody comes in with high cholesterol. What do you ask them?
So the first things, obviously, we probably had to do some figuring out why they were there. They might have come in with some chest pain, or some family members died at the age of 40 from a heart attack. And then we dissect that. We say, let's talk about this. Let's talk about where you've come from. What's your diet like? And then we have to sort of go
So that would be like, what's your emotional diet like?
What's your emotional diet? Yes.
I mean, if we're doing an analogy here, so you would be asking them, do they have a family history of conflict and anger? What's your emotional diet like? Why is there this unease or unbalance of anger popping up? I'm just trying to morph over your approach to cholesterol into emotional disease.
And it's so much harder, isn't it? When you, it's harder, but yet when you break it down like that, actually, that's what it is. There's going to be a root cause to every problem. Now, in some of us, for cholesterol, it's obvious. It's overindulgence of certain things. Now, in emotional hygiene, I suppose it would be things like when you are resorting to unhealthy practices, such as perhaps drinking too heavily or taking...
I think one of the things that are a bit, that happens when it comes to emotion, it is that many people think, I am like this, I am an angry person, I am like, I am sad, or I am this, or I am that. But it actually is that you could approach it the same way as a disease, when you start looking at the root cause and do something about it.
Yeah, instead of saying I am high cholesterol, you say I have high cholesterol, and what do you need? What can I do about it? Do I medicate it? Do I change my lifestyle? Do I change something, in the way I live, or do I need a pill?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that is, when it comes to emotions, we can also do it, but it all happens in the same way. I mean, we go to the doctor when we feel we have stomachache, but to have somebody helping us to diagnose. And when it comes to, but you first have to observe that you have stomachache. So it's the same with anger. You have to observe, oh shit, perhaps I'm angry. So what can I do about it? It is like that, but often that doesn't really happen so much. I mean,
so we do have a kind of an idea that when people we're talking about anger because it's a sort of a high energy dis-ease. and a way of expressing. And of course, during this coronavirus crisis that we're going through now, there seemed to be lack of a good way to vent off some of that energy. And we do have an idea, don't we, today, that we want to talk about how to maybe blow out in a...
Yeah, I mean, we have some different exercises, because it is like this. Conflict starts somewhere, and if you start observing yourself, how you deal with things in life, and then doing something when you're feeling like that high energy is rising. So sometimes we share this exercise, since that is what we do a lot, Ulf and myself. We share practical exercises for dealing with emotions, and anger is one of them. And as we say now, like this rise in domestic violence is because somebody gets angry. That's often, at least, what happens in a conflict.
Shall we try and bring our... are you guys going to teach me what this blowout technique is?
Yeah. So if you do it, it's your favorite one.
Yeah, it's my favorite. I teach this to a lot of athletes because when stress levels get high or you get angry during an athletic performance, your performance goes down immediately. So you need to lose the anger but maintain the energy. And what happens in the body physically when you get angry is you're producing more adrenaline. So you're getting a lot of this energy in the body, which can make your hands shake. So when you're shaking with anger, that's adrenaline speaking in your nervous system. Also, you're getting tensing your muscles, which means that the carbon dioxide in your belly doesn't really circulate the way it should. So your breathing is not really optimal. You're basically, it's not that easy that you're not breathing in and out properly, but breathing has to do with it. So what you want to do is you want to put your hands up in the air. And you can clench. Don't do this while you're driving, please. So hands up in the air.
Your hands on the wheels.
And then you clench your fists and you breathe in. And now you're going to breathe out and pull down your hands so your elbows are at your waist, really hard, like Bruce Lee, going shoo. Yeah, and you do this 2 more times. Hands in the air.
So I'm pretending I've got some dumbbells in my hands. And
and then you pull down going shoo. And 1 more time. Pulling down. Yeah, that's it. And that's called blowout. There's a video on our website, and it's a very, very useful technique for quickly doing
this.
It's
Peaceful Heart Network website.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's peacefulheart.se, which is Sweden, SE. Yeah.
Yep.
So the traditional for me when you get angry is to do your 10 deep breaths. So that's a really nice, interesting and quick one to do, because when the kids are driving me mad, I actually don't have time to stop and take 10 deep breaths. So I think, and of course, yeah, this is great because I can
you could you could try this next time, and they will think, oh wow, mom looks so strong, I could never do anything against her. Because it's like showing your muscles, because you're pulling the arms down just the way that you show your muscles to show how strong you are.
And it's nice because you could do 3 instead of 10 then as well.
Yeah, and a lot of the time when people get angry, you get the adrenaline and your body tells you, I need to do something. That's why you're shaking, So a lot of people vent that by, hitting something, kicking a ball, slamming a door,
breaking
punching
something.
Yeah, breaking something. And that is the adrenaline and the anger saying, I need to express this somehow. So this is a very controlled and peaceful way of expressing that adrenaline and energy so that you can get the oxygen back to your brain and your frontal cortex can start doing stuff in a humane and balanced way again.
Yeah, because it all comes to this being aware of when things rise in you and the energy starts rising, especially this negative energy, because it is like to do
you
that.
Lose control, right? You lose control.
But you actually don't. But you let out something because you're feeling strongly inside. Because often when there is a conflict and the friend calls, the person often actually changes mood directly. So it's not out of control. If you start noticing that when there is a conflict between people and something else happens that breaks it, which means
that's a really important point you just made, because basically it's like, how you behave with your family members who are close to you, where you're maybe a bit more sort of in your rugged mood, and then your boss calls you on the phone, and you can suddenly control the way you speak, and you can smile to them.
That's why I'm saying it's not out of control, but that's what people always say. I was completely out of control. But when something else happened, they just stop, you know, and said, "Oh, wow, how are you? Yeah, we could go out tonight, you know," and then tick, and then continue, you know. So it is like, and what I wanted to say was just this, that we need to manage that, because it is like, otherwise it's a reaction. We need to learn how to take action, you know, not react, but act.
So one of the you said such an important thing there about taking control, and it's actually, you know, the people who maybe are the victims of someone who is angry, yeah, could be your partner or children. So if you are a victim of someone who's constantly angry at you, please do not blame yourself, okay? Because it's not your fault if you become the victim. It's not anything you do or say that makes the other person angry. It's the person who gets angry who needs to figure this out. And we're hoping that you shouldn't blame yourself, and definitely don't put up with it if it's making you feel negative and you're in danger, as that's what organizations like Refuge exist for.
Can I just say something there that pops to my mind? Because when Gunilla says, you know, anger up to a certain point, you can actually take responsibility. But after a certain point, actually you can't. I mean, there's this thing called rage, when you actually kick in the fight and flight reflex, or you panic and you just go into a flashback. If you have a trauma that you have in life earlier, then you can actually step into a situation where your anger is uncontrollable. But I would believe that point is much, 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 much later than people say.
So much later. And I mean, that is easy to become an excuse. So that's why, you know, it is like what you call road rage, that people in the road, I mean, you stop and somebody's passing with that who shouldn't pass in according to you. And then you get furious. But that's because there's some frustration for other things inside. So that's why constantly coming back to start observing yourself and do something before that frustration is leveled. Because anger is, I mean, I'm sorry, but it's a very accepted male emotion. So behind anger can be so many things like sadness, sorrow, you know, other completely different emotions that are not
it's the message. It's the message there. We you know, if you're suffering as someone who does get angry perhaps more frequently than and perhaps during this pandemic and lockdown, you're noticing frustrations coming out more frequently, would it be something that we advise people that, you know, you don't need to sit around and just be like that, okay? Do your 3 breaths or 10 breaths, but also get professional help. Yeah, there is
but I mean, you don't really need there's this thing, many people think that they have to either do nothing or get professional help. There's so much in between that can be done really easily. And one thing is asking, what is this anger trying to tell me? Because I have heard a definition, and I can't vouch for it, but so far I find it accurate. Anger is something that happens in you when you get a no. When something does not respond the way you would like it to, or you want it to, that's why you get angry. Pass me the salt. No. Do your homework. No. Give me a job. No. Respect me. No. Make me feel good. No. So as soon as you get a no to something, that's what it happens. And I also heard another thing, which I either can't prove, but it seems completely correct. There is one thing you actually can say to a person who is extremely angry. The one thing that you can say to a person who is extremely angry, even if they're acting out and you know, thrashing about and shouting and throwing things, the one thing that you actually can say is, where do you hurt?
Yeah, I mean, it is like within the NVC, which is called nonviolent communication, you talk about unseen, unheard needs. I mean, that there is a need behind the anger that you're expressing.
Yeah, because if it is a no to something, then there's a sorrow, a hurt, because there is a no. And the no could be that the person has gone from your life or died or hurt you or left, or nobody ever, you know, made you feel good.
I think that's a really important point, but isn't there thing about timing as well. So if someone is in the middle of their anger moment, it's probably not the best time, and perhaps it's waiting for the time to ask such an important and reflective question, pertinent question. And I just wonder
actually, the way that was presented was the opposite. It is exactly the moment when you should ask that. It's the only thing you can ask when a person is in that mode, but you should ask it with the same energy they have. So if somebody's going, I hate the world, you go, where do you hurt? and that is actually a technique that is tested and works out really, really well, also among law officers, law enforcement.
Yeah, at the same time, I could say that, I mean, what would be very good is that in our last podcast, we did another exercise, a breathing exercise, that if you start doing certain things regularly, you can also regulate your level of frustration on the long term. Emotional dis-ease.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So do you think that's a good place to come to finding calm? And what do you think we should talk about our own ways that, you know, what's your way of dealing with a slightly frustrating moment where you're about to break something or crash the door?
Yeah, I mean, breathing is a very effective way. I mean, this expression, take some deep breaths, it has a history and it has a reason, because when you do breathe in and hold your breath and breathe out, something happens in your nervous system. Or just go out, you know, like go out wherever you can walk out at this time. If you have,
I heard you have a personal fascination with the outdoors.
Yeah. So I go out and I climb trees. Not only when I'm angry, but that's how I very seldom actually become angry, because I think I go out talking to trees and climbing trees, or just walking briskly so that your blood starts circulating. What about yourself, by the way, Siyana? What do you do?
Well, apart from becoming mad Hoover woman and doing a massive clean, I think I agree, the outdoors, particularly the seaside, if you have access to it, can be very soothing. And I'm just thinking about one of my sons who's got Asperger's, and he definitely has some very high energy moments. And yet we can sit on a dock fishing, not really catching any fish, but we've done it for 7 hours continuously with not a single episode of anger. And there's something hugely incredible about the outdoors.
Yeah, it's another focus. And what about you, Ulf? What do you do?
Well, you know, I like taking a walk. I like playing music. That really works for me, you know, expressing emotion into music. I play the piano. It works fantastically. And my grandmother used to say, you know, close your eyes and dance like nobody sees you, not even yourself. And if you would see yourself, you should be ashamed. That's how you should dance. And
you know, dancing in the dark. What an image.
Lovely. Wow, wow, wow.
That's a wonderful place to start. So, to stop, I guess, you know, is just...
Well, we got stuff to do. Trees to climb, dances to dance, and hovering.
Yeah, and if you want to know more, just visit our website, peacefulheart.se, and find some more suggestions.
Yeah, and send us suggestions, you know, send us your email, you know, write in the comment field what you think about this and what you would like us to talk about, and share it with your friends. And even more importantly, share it with the people you don't like, because if you don't like them, it's probably because they're angry and they need it.
Absolutely. So coming from a place of conflict, the three of us, we wanted really to bring calm to your lives with what we bring from people we've met who've been through severe conflicts. And we hope you can take some of that away from you.
Yeah, because that's really to take a bit of control of your life, is to decide when you want to do this or that and not just react.
And there's the thing, you can't control your emotions, but you can control your body. So do something, breathe, climb, dance, whatever it is, and your emotions will follow. Take care.
Yeah, good luck.
Bye.